Well, you may be wondering why it looks like I just went swimming, and it's because our studio is out in our lovely warehouse. It is currently over 100 degrees here, so if these videos help you out, please hit the subscribe button because I am suffering to make them for you. And today, we're looking at the largest of the Miatas, which is kind of an oxymoron. We're talking NC. This is where Mazda seemed to hint they were going in the direction of every other car maker ever, which is bigger equals better, but instead did a U-turn with the ND and went straight back to making golf carts. So, this generation, the NC, looks a little bit like a soap bar on wheels. Weird analogy, writer, but we'll take it, especially the NC1. The good thing is there are always a lot of ways we can address this. A Mazdaspeed front bumper, wider fender flares, and one of the best performance and visual modifications that you can possibly do to your car, new wheels. You guessed it, wheels and tires happen to be what we do here, and this guide is going to teach you all about wheel fitment for your NC Miata. Now, this guide is specifically for the Mazda MX-5 NC Miata 2005 to 2015. Woof, what a long run that was. This is a wide range of years, and as you probably know, there are a few sub-generations, including the NC1, NC2, and, you probably guessed, NC3. So far, the longest run of any Miata generation. Now, the cool thing is these all shared fundamentally the same wheel fitment. There are a few very slight little tweaks, but basically all the same thing. Now, as a reminder, this guide is heavily visual, so be sure to click the link down below in the description. We have it all written out. You can kind of scroll back to different sections that you like, bookmark it, whatever you want to do. And if it helps you out, please hit the subscribe button so we can keep making this content for you. Now, the basic information: 50114 bolt pattern, M12 by 1.5 lug thread, 66.1 millimeter center bore on these wheels, 80 to 90 foot-pounds of torque. Be careful with the lug pattern. If you're coming from an NA or an NB Miata, you might be like, oh, I'll just get some 4x100 wheels, slap them on. Well, guess what? You're wrong. You might be familiar with the classic 4x100 lug pattern, but the NC, being a larger car, uses a 5x114.3 PCD, which was reverted again for the 2015 Plus ND. Generally speaking, 5x114 gives you a ton more wheel options, so there is a big plus there. Now, at a glance, 17-inch wheels are the most popular size for this chassis, but that does not mean that they are strictly required or necessarily the best. If you like meaty tires, you could run a 16-inch wheel. 18s are a bit controversial on a Miata, but they're still very possible to run. In our opinion, they are best on a stance build where you want a really big wheel with not a lot of tire to fill up the fender arch. Now, what about width and offset? Factory wheels come in at a whopping, wildly aggressive 16 by 6.5 or 17 by 7 plus 55. We can do a lot better, right? 8-inch wide wheels are super popular because they're easy to fit, yet give you a lot more contact patch, and there's a ton of options. 9-inch wide is about as wide as we'd recommend on stock fenders. Offset is all over the place. You have a super broad range. Sometimes you'll see high 50s offsets on super conservative setups, while others go all the way down to a plus 20 or sometimes even lower, and that's not even talking about the guys running negative offsets on stance builds. We are going to show you obviously examples of higher and lower offsets so you can pick what's right for you. Now, it's not a secret, these cars are not particularly powerful. After all, you get a whopping 125 horsepower from the 1.8 liter, and torque, well, that kid in your neighborhood riding his Huffy bicycle uphill, yeah, he makes more torque than your Miata. Wheels are unsprung weight, meaning that adding extra in this category will make your car feel even more gutless, so that is why people with NCs are always talking about wheel weight when the subject of aftermarket wheels comes up. Now, for reference, here are the weights of the factory wheels, just so you can stay under these and not go over them unless you're building a stance car, in which case you obviously don't care, but again, you're probably not watching this video at that point. The stock 16s weigh in at about 15 pounds a piece, and the 17s come in at 17 pounds a piece. Aftermarket wheels may weigh a bit more due to being wider, but generally we want to stay at or under those weights if possible. The extra weight of 18s is one of the motivations to run a smaller size. However, there are lightweight 18s out there if for some reason you want really big wheels that are really light. Now, rolling fenders, the stock tires are only 205 wide on non-aggressive wheels. So with wider wheels, you will definitely want wider tires, be it 215, 225, or even more. If you're running a 225 or wider tire, it's advisable to roll your fenders, although in my personal opinion, you should just always roll your fenders when you do aftermarket wheels. Luckily, the process is not particularly difficult on the NC Miata, so don't sweat it too much. All you need is a heat gun, a fender roller, your buddies, a 12-pack, and some patience. The rear fenders do normally need the most attention as they have a massive lip. You might need to roll it flat. You might be able to get away with just pushing it up a little bit. You may just want to notch it into pieces like a BMW and fold it up. Depends on how aggressive your wheels and tires are and if you ever want to resell the car. The fronts on this car are kind of pre-rolled, but you can gain an extra 1/4 inch of space there if you need to by just doing a little slight roll and then a little slight flare. It's not a full pull. It's just kind of continuing the exact same fender arch. Now let's get into some examples of what wheels fit on your car, because I've yapped enough and you want to know what fits. First one we're taking a look at are KONIG HELIOGRAM 16x8 plus 38 all the way around, the square setup on this NC. These are wrapped up in Firestone Indy 500 205 50/16 tires all the way around again. This is a 2009 NC soft top GT lowered on H&R springs, and to start this off, this NC2 is running a set of 16-inch KONIG HELIOGRAMs. This car retains the factory tire size of 205 50/16, but you could always run a wider size on this wheel. ENKEI and KONIG wheels go with Miatas like peanut butter and jelly. They're budget friendly, they're fairly light. It's convenient that they provide weight for basically every single wheel that they make on their websites. These are listed at about 15 pounds a piece, meaning they are right on about the same weight as the OEM 16s while being wider. This car is lowered on H&R lowering springs, which provide a modest 1.3-inch drop, and rubbing will not be a concern until we start to look at much wider and more aggressive setups. Now we're taking a look at some ADVAN TC4s, 17x8 with a 45 offset all around, Kumho Exta tires in a 215/45/17 size. This one is lowered on coilovers. It is an unknown brand of coilovers. However, there's no fender rolling needed on this specific vehicle, and the difference between 16s and 17s is immediately obvious when you put the two cars next to each other. Editor, put the two cars next to each other.
Check this out.
Okay.
Thank you. The NC1 MX-5 is running a set of ADVAN wheels at 17x8 plus 45. The poke on this one is about the same as the first one, with the main differential being the wheel diameter. Another difference is, of course, that slightly wider 215 tire on this one instead of the factory 205. These wheels weigh in at about 17.4 pounds a piece, and this car is on coilovers, and by our guesstimation, it is probably about the same height as the last car, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, somewhere around their drop. Now, even with those wider tires, there's zero rubbing to concern yourself with. The fenders were left unmodified. You don't need to modify them on this one. Now, we got a really cool setup on this next one. Ray's Collab Mazda Motorsports ZE40s, 17x8 plus 40 all around, Bridgestone Potenza RE71RS, 225/45 tires. These ZE40s come in at 17x8 plus 48 on this NC, and it is lowered on Meister R coilovers. Now, a lot of Mazda Miata owners will go with a 215/45 tire or a 235/40 tire. What we see here is a 225/45/17 tire. Because the rolling diameter is marginally larger than the others, you may have a slight loss in torque. However, the trade-off is a bit more grip and a tire that fills out the wheel wells a little bit better, so there's an appearance performance trade-off. Now, the wheel specs are fairly similar to what we've seen thus far. The main differential is in the tire sizing. This car is lowered on Meister R coilovers and has zero rubbing. Now, this next one we're going to take a look at is sitting on ENKEI RPF1 17x8 plus 45 offset, wrapped up in Continental Extreme Contact tires. Tires measuring in at, again, 225/45/17 all the way around, lowered on BC Racing coilovers. Now, these fit without having to roll the fenders and have no rubbing issues to concern yourself with, so if you want a simple setup, there you go. You, of course, knew the RPF ones were coming sooner or later. They're one of the most popular wheels on these cars. They are some of the lightest flow-form wheels on the market, and they are really, really, really affordable. So weight is not going to be an issue, and neither is the price tag. This specific size weighs in at under 16 pounds per wheel. The fitment here is identical to the last. However, we wanted to show off what RPF ones look like on an NC3. This car is lowered on BC Racing coilovers, and while it does not rub, it is a very tight fit. Again, we would probably recommend rolled fenders for any tire 235 and up, or just if your car is super low. It's really cheap insurance compared to buckling your fenders. Now we're going to get into some more aggressive stuff, track and aggressive fitment. This is the point where we start to get into really wide setups. They might not be wide to compared to like a BMW or a CTSV or a 350Z, but for a stock-bodied little tiny baby Miata, these are aggressive. The first one we're looking at is sitting on ADVAN RG4 18x8.5 plus 37 all the way around. These are wrapped up in some Hankook Ventus 225/35/18 tires, lowered on HKS coilovers, rolled fenders all the way around on this one. It's not the most popular size. However, you can definitely fit an 18-inch wheel on your NC, and it does fill out the wheel wells really well. To reiterate, the extra weight of 18s is going to hurt performance quite a bit. However, if you're going for a stance setup or just a nice cruiser, or you just like the wheels where performance is secondary, the size might be perfect for you. This NC3 is running much, much more aggressive specs than anything on our list thus far. Not only is it lower, these wheels are 8.5 inches wide, giving them a little bit of extra poke. The tires are kind of a weird size at 225/35/18. You could try a 215/40/18 for a similar effect, or even a 215/35 if you're going to be a little bit lower. Some other models mods on this car. The body kit is from S2 Racing. It's on HKS coilovers, and the fenders are rolled all the way around, which you'd expect with a more stance-oriented setup like this. Next up, you've got a really, really cool setup. This is my personal favorite from the list. Working Motion T7R 17x9 with a 38 offset. And these are wrapped up in Yokohama ADVAN 215 4017 tires. This is lowered on Blitz ZZR coilovers, adjustable suspension arms to dial in the perfect fitment. Fenders are rolled, slight rubbing, and it looks like there might be a little bit of pull there going on as well. 8.5-inch wheels, not wide enough for your specific application. Well, how about some 17x9 plus 38 work emotions? These are wrapped up in 215 4017 tires, making for a pretty decent stretch on that 9-inch wide wheel. Stretch tires do, of course, help, but you'll also need a little bit of extra camber to go with them. That is why this car is running adjustable control arms, camber, traction, tow, all the arms, guys. When you say arms, just all of them. It dials in the alignment perfectly, and the fenders are, of course, rolled. Even with this, you are going to have a little bit of rubbing in the front and obviously rubbing on bumps and stuff like that. Now we've got a set of WEDSSPORT TC105X 17x9 plus 49. Again, another favorite of mine on this list. I love the TC105X. It is a great looking wheel. These are wrapped up in Yokohama ADVAN A052 tires, 245 4017. The fenders are rolled. They are pulled as well. There is no rubbing. This one is on 949 Racing coilovers, which are a fairly Mazda specific brand. Now the last two are obviously more form versus function. However, this one is more function versus form. This is all about grip, boys. 245 4017 tires are about as wide as you can get the stock fenders to accept. And let's face it, on this little 125 horsepower Miata, do you actually need any more? The ADVAN A052 tend to run closer to a 255 of other brands as well, so take that into account. The fenders needed to be rolled all the way flat in the rear, and at this ride height, the final product does not rub, although under compression or load, it may rub a little bit. This car is definitely set up for track use with a set of 949 Racing coilovers, and is probably an absolute blast to drive. Now we're taking a look at a very budget-friendly option here. MST Wheels Time Attack 17x9 plus 20 all the way around, wrapped up in Kenda Vezda, hard to say, 235 4017 tires. This one is lowered on, again, another favorite coilover brand, Fortune Auto coilovers. You can pick them up from our website. They're a fantastic, fantastic coilover brand. The fenders are rolled and pulled, and it still rubs. We're not really sure where to put this one. It's not super dumped, but it's running some pretty aggressive fitment. Is it form? Is it function? Is it a track car? Is it a street car? You be the judge. We're just putting it out there for you. 17x9 wheels with a 20 offset with 235 4017 tires, the most aggressive feature here today. The best thing is these wheels are super affordable. You can pick up a set for like 800 bucks, maybe a little bit less. Of course, this car is lowered, as we can see, and the coilovers of choice were Fortune Auto 500s. The fenders on this car were rolled and pulled, but that still doesn't solve all of the rubbing issues this one experiences. If you go in an offset this low, you just are gonna rub. It's just how life goes when it starts to get into stance setups. So let's wrap it all up here. What did we learn about fitment on the NC Miata today? Well, we learned you can't really fit big wheels, huh? 16s, 17s, and 18s are all possible, but 17s are by far the most popular diameter. Whatever size you choose, be mindful of the weight of your wheels, as an overly heavy wheel will make your Miata feel like a word I can't say on YouTube. For clean, simple fitment, size your wheels somewhere around a 17x8 to a 17x8.5, an offset in the high 30s to 40s, and a tire size around 215 to 225. If you have a Miata with aftermarket wheels, please add it to our vehicle gallery to help other people dial in their specific wheel and tire setup on their Miata. Any aftermarket wheels will do, so even if you lifted your MX-5 on 20s, you can flex your super awesome fitment or get even more ideas for your build. Thank you all so much for watching. Let us know what vehicle we should do a fitment guide on next, and I'll see you in the next one.